OTAN, Outreach and Technical Assistance Network.
Surviving the Current, Innovative Video Projects for Skill Integration. OTAN Technology and Distance Learning Symposium 2019.
Thank you very much for staying for this last workshop. I know a lot of, I think we're all, is that all? I guess that's it, right? Which is a nice crowd. Anyways, my name is Kristi Vela-Che, and these are my colleagues, Katrina, Tamura, and Kristi, Reyes. And today this workshop is about innovative video projects for skill integration. We're going to show you, we're going to give you ideas on how to, integrate a little bit of that technology into your lesson plans. And let's see. We're going to start with this warm-up. Like I said, my name is Kristi Vela-Che, and I teach ESL Level 1 at Miracosta in Oceanside, California. And for this warm-up, we would like you guys to discuss this. We want you to introduce yourself, where you come from, and what you teach, just like a little warm-up. So can we do that right now? Sure. Did everybody get to introduce themselves? We are a very small group, so I think we know. I think this group, everybody knows each other. So let's move on to the next questions here. The first question here that we have is, we would like you to discuss this one. So have you ever used student-created video projects in your classroom? Yes? No? What do you think? Now the next question, pretty cool. So in this, like I say, in this presentation, we're going to give you ideas on how to, integrate technology. If you have, okay, so the next one is if you have tell about a project you haven't, so we already did that, so let's move on. So this is a project that that my students from Level 1 created. That was a couple of summers ago. Now I have to mention again, Level 1 with low limited English skills. When you teach grammar to beginner students, it can be very abstract and confusing. So what I wanted to do with this class is to put a little bit of meaning to what we were learning. The topic was simple present. It was a grammar topic. So what I wanted to do is for them to use it in meaningful ways. So I will show you a video of what they did. Let's see. The project was, what do you do in the morning? And students had to create scenarios expressing what they were doing. For example, if they were doing dishes, I do dishes every day. Okay, so they had to find examples in their daily life. Let me show you a little bit of the instructions. I really had to work a lot of the instruction. I have to explain what I wanted to do or what I want them to do. So the way I guess it's not gonna, I think it's not gonna do it, yeah. So let me show you the video here, and I'll show you also the tools that I used. Okay, so okay, 1 second here. Okay, so let me show you now the video. So this is samples of, again, Level 1 students. So what I used, it was Google Drive, their cell phones, of course, and then iMovie. I have to mention, I have to do, and with the help of other people, the editing part. Because this part was, very difficult for them to do, but at least they were able to create those videos at home. So let me show you that instead of trying to explain here. I have back then 20-something students, and it was a little bit hard and a little bit difficult to handle that amount of students, and it was our first video project. I didn't even know what was going to be the result, the end result, but it was pretty funny because a lot of them really tried to do a good job, and you'll see with these two examples here. But yes, what I did was, number 1, explain instructions. Number 2, I did a sample for what I want them to do, okay? So then they see what I'm expecting.
We're going to be making a video ourselves right now. So I've been using an app on my phone. I'm going to come around and I would like you to tell me your name and where you work and why you want to use video projects.
So we're going to move on. So this is the example of Miss Angelica. So with this example from Angelica, what you see there is using the grammar point that we were learning in a meaningful context, and I didn't have to explain when to use a simple present for routines and habits and all that. I just assigned the project, and then it's almost like you put meaning to that grammar point or grammar part there. The next video is, what did I use here? So this, it was in an EL Civics unit, and it was an education unit. So students needed to give a sample of the new vocabulary. They needed to create a video using the new vocabulary. In this video, with this video, I used Adobe Spark and then their cell phone. With this, this was 100% student made. I didn't intervene. The only thing was helping with, you know, uploading it to either YouTube or any other platform. So Adobe Spark, very simple, very easy to use app, and labeling. The point here was labeling. So once students learn vocabulary, they were supposed to be taking pictures and then make a video. So it made it much, much relevant. And then now Katrina is going to be talking about more ideas for intermediate students.
All right, so I'm sure you have kind of multi-level class, multi-ability classes, right? Well, I was working with a group of students who were intermediate, but some of them weren't so intermediate, right? And some of them were really, had a lot of tech ability, and they didn't have the language ability, right? So having them work together on a project is really good because they both get to use their talents, right? And in this particular case, we had a situation where where a police officer was standing outside of our classroom on a Saturday morning, and my students started to panic because some of them had been avoiding the train station and the Sprinter stop and everything because they were afraid of immigration. This was when, like, you know, they didn't feel welcome or they were afraid to come to class. And the police officer, so the students were looking at me like, teacher, why is he here, you know? And I don't know. So they left class that day. He didn't stop them or anything, but he came in and talked to me. And he said, you know, I just want to apologize. I realized that I scared your students today. I was just here to support another teacher who was having a problem with students, right? So I took that as an opportunity for him to come back and talk to my students. They created questions, present tense questions, past tense questions, you know, WH information questions. And so they asked him a lot about himself. And then we decided to do a digital story with him. And so he came in, talked to them, and then he brought us pictures from his life. And then he wrote a small script. He wrote down a page of information about himself. He brought that page in, and he brought the pictures on a USB. And one of my students with higher tech ability, who had actually worked with, you know, he kind of in his country, that was his job. He did that kind of stuff, and he was like, yes, I can do this. So together, they put together a story about the police officer, matching the pictures to the phrases in his story. And so the student actually took the files home and then came back with a produced digital story. I went in and helped him a little bit here and there with adding a title and that kind of stuff. But this is the video. Okay, and you can hear my students in the background. Did you hear them all kind of laughing at it? Because this is really in class. He came in on the next Saturday, and we did the voice recording in class. And as you can see, this is serving as a model, right? The officer selected pictures. He wrote a script. He did his audio, and here is the end result. And then so many students went back home and they used different media, whatever they knew how to use, and they made their own stories and brought them in. That was how I used it in my class. I've also used it for topics, you know, the EL Civics topics and general kind of social topics like using plastic bags and mom and pop shops. So getting that vocabulary, so students would put together a video about what a mom and pop shop is and different examples of it and things like that. Okay. Okay, so for intermediate students and for any student, just like Chris was saying, you need to show an example before you just give it to them, right? So don't just throw a project at them. It is good to see a model and then walk your class through the steps. Allow more advanced students to work ahead. Don't make them wait just because, you know, so-and-so hasn't even logged into whatever, you know, just let them go. And encourage students to edit their work at home if they feel confident in working on their own. That's that kind of extended learning where they take it home and they can, they could record the voice again if they record in class and you hear everybody laughing or doors slamming, so they can do it at home. And don't forget to tell students to speak up. If they whisper, their voices won't be audible on the thing. They'll have a really long video and then it's just like this, hello, hello. You know, you can barely hear them. So don't forget to use some sort of signal. Okay, I'm recording now, please, no laughing, right? And don't rush. Have a backup activity for students who finish early because like I said, some people, this is like nothing, right? They can do this. So have something, a more advanced project that you can do with them. And yeah, because students work at different paces. Okay.
So my students are more advanced. We have 7 levels of ESL at my school. And I teach a hybrid class, so that means most of our level classes meet 4 days a week, but mine meets 3 days a week with about 3 hours of online work. So they're pretty tech savvy. I mean, I have some students who have bachelor's degrees in computer and, you know, they're teaching me and that gives them a lot of pride. So one thing I wanted to do is I really want to, and this is good online teaching, is to create the community that we have in the classroom outside of the classroom. So how I usually arrange my classes, we have a weekly theme, often related to a college subject. We have discussion and so on. And so what I decided to do is to have them answer the discussion questions on video so that when they came to class, we could kind of see some of the top responses and so on. So the first time I did this, I would pose a question before we started to look at that topic. They used their own cell phone cameras, and then they would either email me or text me as a message their videos, which I don't recommend. It gets to be very chaotic when all these videos are coming from you at different places. So what I used the second time around was Flipgrid, which you mentioned, because then all they need is they can download the app or install the app, they enter a code, and voila, all the videos are in one spot, which is really nice. So I won't tell you all the questions. You can look at this on the OTAN site. But I was inspired by this channel on YouTube called Soul Pancake. And it's really interesting. They have people of all races and ages and backgrounds, and they ask all these people different questions. So how do you cope with bad news? Who have you lost touch with? So I kind of modeled after that, but put all the students' videos together, and they were answering a question more related to the topic they would be reading and writing about. So I won't show you this, but check it out. This could give you some really good ideas, this channel, for how you could have students do projects where they're answering questions, practicing their writing and their speaking. So these were some of the questions. They really related to the reading that we were doing. And you can check that out. There's a compilation of some of the students' responses that I put together. So when we got to we have 8-week sessions. So we saw the first 2 within the first 2 weeks. And then as we got to this last question, that was our last day of class. And it was very emotional. I had a group of, I think, 1 man, all women. So ladies, you know. Okay. So it was really emotional because what were they proud of? One girl said, I'm so proud of myself. Because when I first came to this school, they put me in level 7, but I didn't feel ready and went back to level 6. But now I've finished level 7 and my English has improved so much. And it was just an amazing moment to finish the class with that kind of feedback that you get. You know, we don't always hear that from our students, and so they get the opportunity to tell you how they felt about the class. So with Flipgrid, it's perfect for any sort of videos that's just a talking head. Although I imagine that it would be okay if also, as you saw in Chris's student videos, that they were walking around in their house or in their neighborhood making a video. They would just be uploading the video into Flipgrid. This is what Flipgrid looks like. So you can see all the students' responses, and then you can go in and respond to students. You can respond privately by video, and they can, if you set it up, there are many different options how you set it up. You can have students replying to each other. So this would be a really interesting thing to try. Maybe just one time try Flipgrid and see where the conversation goes. So that would be a great use of Flipgrid as well, reflecting on their learning. Yeah, I really like it. It's really easy for students to use. Yeah, super easy, right? So I think even with lower level students, you just create a screenshot and tell them push on the plus and talk. That's how easy it is. With my more advanced students, I cover, if you're familiar with the AZAR, the black AZAR, there's red, green, so the grammar book. Mm-hmm. So I use the black AZAR workbook, and in the back there are phrasal verbs, but I also like to, these students are pretty advanced, so I like to teach them some idioms. So one term I put together, there's a YouTube channel where someone has graciously made all these videos about different idioms. So I took the ones that I liked and I think students would benefit from knowing, and created kind of a list of those videos. So a playlist, and then every week they would need to go and look at that, watch that video, write down the definition of the idiom, you know, how it came to be, the etymology, if they could find it, the source, and then those videos also gave a sentence using the idiom. So then we would have questions about those idioms, like when was the last time it rained cats and dogs that you remember? So they had to use the idioms in conversation with their classmates. As we got done with the end of the 8-week term, they had a list of like 40 idioms they had learned. And they got together in groups. You know, if you're starting off with video, group work works very well, because there's got to be someone who knows how to operate the technology, and someone else is probably very confident with their language skills. So that works out well. So this group, what they did is they had to choose 2 or 3 idioms and write a dialogue, and then role play it. And so this one turned out really funny. They had a great time. We watched it the last day of class, because you don't know, what do you do on the last day? Give another test? No. Teach something new? No. So it was kind of a nice way to wrap up the class, have a good laugh, you know, and see themselves on video. Do you like to see yourselves on video? No one really does. No one really does. But for our second language learners, for our English language learners, I think, you know, it's pretty empowering to see yourself speaking another language. This was when I was teaching a slightly lower level. We talked about etiquette once, and you know, cell phone etiquette, and they made a list of all different places where you see good and bad etiquette. And I think I'll show this sample in a moment. This team did good etiquette. Well, they did bad etiquette first, and then good etiquette for the movie theater. So there wasn't a lot of speaking there, but they didn't all speak the same first language. So in planning that out, they had to use negotiation, they had to, cooperation, all the soft skills. So you can imagine how much fun they had with that, and then when we watched it. And at another time, I had students, we read about home remedies. And if you have diverse class, you will learn a lot from this. I did not know that for congestion, that you can fry onions and put it on your chest and you'll feel better. I had no idea. So that was super interesting for me, you know, that I could learn these things about their countries, and they love sharing about their cultures and their So, some people had cultural home remedies and others family home remedies. And it was really interesting. It was a great way. So how I construct this, as well as these two ladies, is it's not just throwing, hey, do this video project. Like Chris said, you have a model, first of all, and you have to give them time to write and give them feedback before you throw them into the video project.
For any video project, you want to make sure you have clearly defined goals. What do you want to get out of this project? In my case, I wanted to have a model for digital stories, and I wanted to repair a hurt relationship, right? So students could feel comfortable on campus. And so you need to make sure you determine your goals. What do you want your students to learn? Write a script, have them practice it, right? It's okay to have them read their script aloud to their peers so they can get feedback and then feel more comfortable when it's time to record.
I would just add another project I did before with lower level students is they brainstormed their favorite movies, and then as a team they chose one movie, and you can find a lot of movie scripts online. So I found just a very short scene, and we did a pre-videotape where they just kind of read it, and then each week they practiced with their group to build their fluency, and then we post videotaped, and we saw all and had an award for the best improved team, and that was really fun. So it shouldn't be an individual activity. This is a great way for students to teach each other and learn from each other.
And remember to make sure that they don't write more than 200 words. You don't want them to, it's not the life story. It's like a clear, concise, overview. So any of these projects, make sure that it's like one page. More than that, it's just too much, and they don't really get to work on those skills of being clear and concise. Mm-hmm. Organize, make sure that you select images and pictures and videos that will play and synced with audio. For my student, that was something he really needed to go home and listen so carefully to what the police officer was saying and follow the script and make sure that the pictures, and then if there was an idea that wasn't represented and the officer's personal pictures, he needed to find one that could represent that idea, right? So having them match is a really important step in Organize. Recording it on a phone might be a good idea because the sound is clearer as opposed to the microphone in the computer lab.
Okay, so before they actually shoot the video, you need to create some buy-in. So like for that home remedy one, I made a really silly video of myself. And they saw that I could laugh at myself, so they were willing to risk, it's not embarrassing, it's fun. Start with a very small project, like just with maybe Flipgrid, hello, my name is, to build their confidence a little bit. You really, in good teaching, you just don't do a video project just for the fun of doing video. You need to integrate it with your content, yeah. So you mentioned with was it EL Civics, right? So it's integrated, it's not, good technology integration is just not the technology. It's using all their skills and it's added. As I said, we've said this before, when you do your little sample yourself, don't make it perfect. Because if it's too perfect, they're thinking, I can't do that. So if you make it a little bit messy, not perfect, they will rise and probably outdo you, actually. You could hear in a couple of the videos that we had that there was some background noise. So, you have to be able to give some students, if it's a group project, they're not likely to do it on their own time because adults are so busy. So maybe you give them an extended break and they can go outside where it's a little bit colder. It's good to provide feedback along the way. So as I mentioned, if you have them write a script, you don't say, oh yeah, you're good. No, let me help you. Let's try to use some other vocabulary. Let's use some of the skills that you've been learning in the class. And there's so many different ways that you could do a video, from the video editing itself to the delivery to the housing of the video. So decide on that first and make sure you're pretty comfortable with it. Because if you're not comfortable with it and create some stress in you if you're trying to get students to use a tool that you don't know how to use very well yourself. As with any technology, have a plan B. So be flexible, model how students should act. When there's failure, you model it. Like, okay, we're going to try it again tomorrow, something like that. Praise students' efforts, the growth mindset. Your English has gotten so much better. Look at where your video was now and look where it is going. And give students a chance to reflect, like what you did with your flip grid, or self-evaluate. That kind of brings it to a more academic level if you're having them evaluate their speaking, their pronunciation. And if time allows, maybe you have that one student like Katrina did who will take on the video editing. Because if you've ever done video editing, you know it can be very laborious. So if there's a student who's a little bit higher technical skills, maybe that person can help you out. Otherwise, you could try it. You could have students, as long as you are prepared yourself, go step by step in a computer lab and you could show them a simple video editing tool. We have a whole bunch of different projects listed on this slide. So you can look at this. We'll upload it to the OTAN site later on today. But they're just, for anything that you have students present or write about, that could become a video project. So I want to give you just a minute with the people close to you. If you can just share, if there's something sparked in your mind, one student video project you might try. So, when you're getting ready to write your new tech plan, that could be something that a certain number of students will create a personal video project or something like that. That could be something coming up. It would be great if one person, maybe it's you from your school, gets really comfortable with it, and you could lead the professional development. We have a site that has some resources. It's this QR code, and please fill out the evaluation. There's the QR code, or there's the QR code, yeah. And I think you can go onto the OTAN site. So thank you for joining us. Tomorrow, the last session tomorrow, we'll be in a computer lab, and you'll make a digital story using Adobe Spark. So if that's something that you would like to learn, come and join us tomorrow for the last session. Adobe Spark, very simple to use. You would really love it, and so would your students. Thank you.